Well, up to now we have only used the notes of the C major scale. In fact, if I take this example, I am in the C major scale, in the C major key, so I'm using the C major scale. I am on the first degree, I'm using the C major key, C major chord, and I take the G note, which is a chord tone of the C major chord. Then I go down to the above auxiliary tone, and then I return to the G, which is, of course, a chord tone. As you can see, in this case, in this example, I'm only using the natural degrees of the C major scale. Of course, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and C are the notes of the C major scale, are the natural degrees of the C major scale. Okay, but we can also alter the degrees of a scale, of any scale, of a major and also of a minor scale, both scale. But in this case we are talking about the major scale. So we can alter a degree. So for example, I can alter the fourth degree of the C major scale, and instead of playing a natural F, an F natural, I will be playing an F sharp. So in this case I will have to go, I pass from the G, and then instead of going to the F natural, I will go to the F sharp, which of course is always an auxiliary tone, and then I return to the G. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 instead of having 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. How are they called? How can I call these auxiliary tones? They are called the chromatic auxiliary tones, and we have to make a distinction between the chromatic auxiliary tones when we are using an altered degree of the scale we are playing in, and the diatonic auxiliary tone that I was using before when I was using the F natural. In this case, when I use the natural degrees of a scale, I have to call them diatonic auxiliary tones, while in the case of altered degrees I have to call them chromatic auxiliary tones. They are very, very important. They give me a very effective musical situation. Why is it? This is because in the case of the G and F natural and then again G, so in the case of a diatonic auxiliary tone, I have a whole tone between the chord tone and the auxiliary tone. Between F and G, I have a whole tone. While in the case of a chromatic auxiliary tone, so for example G, F sharp and G, there is only a half tone between the chord tone and the auxiliary tone. And this is very important because I have an artificial half tone, because I have obtained by altering some degrees of the scale, and this give me a sense of tension which is very strong. You can hear it is, I think, very clear the sense of tension that I have using the F sharp. It's much stronger than in the case of the F natural. So when I'm on the F sharp, while I am on the F sharp, there is a strong tension. How we can say that there is a strong tendency to return from the F sharp to the G. And of course, as we said before, this tension is stronger than in the previous case, in the case of a diatonic auxiliary tone. And this kind of tension between two notes to adjacent degrees is very similar to the case of the tension that there is between the leading tone and the tonic. It is the same situation. If I take the tonic in the C major key and then I go to the leading tone, I only have a half tone, and this give the leading tones this role, we could say, of this role of tension, of tendency to resolve, moving up, moving to the higher degree, which is of course the tonic. And in this case we have the same kind of tension, but it is very important to understand that while in the case of the leading tone and the tonic, it is something natural, because it is part of the scale. The leading tone is naturally a half tone lower than the tonic. In the case of an auxiliary, a chromatic auxiliary tone, we have an artificial tension, an artificial half tone, and this is something very important, because we are able in every moment to introduce this kind of tension. So of course we can look at other example. If I am on the E note, which is of course the third degree of the C major scale, and in this case it is the chord tone of the C major chord, instead of going down or moving down to the D natural and then returning then to the E, I can alter the D, so from D natural to D sharp. So instead of having a natural second degree, in this case I have an augmented second degree. And so in this case, instead of playing 1, 2, 3, 4, I can play 1, 2, 3, 4. So while I am on the D sharp, there is a very strong tension that need to be resolved, going up, moving to the chord tone in this case. And this is very similar to the case of the leading tone and the tonic. So the chromatic auxiliary tones, the use of them is very, very important in composing, for two main reasons. The first one is that we can compose in a whole melody. We can use some frames with more tension than other frames. I mean, we can imagine a melody how if it was made up of many different frames with different features, and in some frames we can achieve a stronger tension by using these chromatic auxiliary tones. So this is the first reason of the importance of these auxiliary tones. And the second reason is that in this way, the use of the chromatic auxiliary tones allow us to use notes with alteration, with accidentals. So if I don't use, for example, the chromatic auxiliary tones, maybe I'm limited to use only the natural degrees, for example, of the C major scale. And the fact of being able to use the chromatic auxiliary tones allow me to use accidentals, to use altered degrees. So this is a very important way, a very effective way, which with I can use the altered degrees. So of course we can obtain a very effective melodic frame in this way, only using these chromatic auxiliary tones. I mean, I stay still in the same key. I'm not changing my key. I'm staying still in the C major key. But of course, using these altered auxiliary tones, I can achieve a greater variety, and this is a way of achieve a great variety. So this is a very important tool for us that we learned today. And in the next video, we are going to see how to mix three different notes. We're going to see how to mix the chord tones, the passing tones, and the auxiliary tones. So only even if we have only three kind of notes, as you will see in the next video, we will be able to obtain a very effective melody. So only using these three different kinds of notes. So the chord tones will give us some melodic skip. I can skip from one chord tone to another. The passing tones will give us a linear trend, will give the melody a linear trend, while the auxiliary tones will give us some change of direction.